All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Taylor Kyles here for CLNS Media, back with another live episode of the Patriots Daily podcast, powered by PrizePicks, powered by our friends at Omaha Steaks today, and powered by another Patriots win here, Taylor. They keep churning them out. That is 9 in a row, as the Patriots are the first team to 10 wins. And they are in the driver's seat, not only in the AFC postseason race, but the entire NFL. So top of the standings, although, as we know, this was a bit of an ugly one. So we want to break it down, what happened yesterday in Cincinnati. We're going to talk if the Patriots are truly Super Bowl contenders and where their stance is right now in the AFC picture, which, spoiler alert, I don't know if they're Super Bowl contenders right now, Taylor, after what happened yesterday. But we'll get into it. But off the top, we do want to actually start with a couple of injury reports here because hold on, just getting through. Oh, I was reading your back channel message as well. So we're a little early today. Taylor's heading to Caleb on Chason's charity event this evening, I believe. Where is it? And what's he up to? I wanted to have you speak on that before. Just kind of we're usually 5, 6 o'clock on Mondays, but we got it out because Taylor's going to head out to that. So what does Caleb have going on today?
I will read the actual press release so I don't mess anything up, but it's really cool. I believe he's giving 44 turkeys away for families, not being number 44 for Thanksgiving. So that is going to be, I believe, in Brockton today.
Okay. Nice.
So Caleb on Chason will visit with the Patriots Foundation's community captain organization, Father Bills and Mainspring, to provide Thanksgiving meals to their families in need. Chason will provide 44 meals, to represent his number 44. So really want to be getting to more of these kinds of things. So I'm really excited to be heading down there. Of course,
definitely
kind of had to expedite my process. So didn't get quite as deep into the weeds as I want to, which is not safe anyway. Maybe it's, blessing in disguise. It's good for my mental health this week. I have a little extra time with the Monday game anyway. But yeah, a lot of this is going to be based on the numbers that we saw, some things that I looked up specifically to kind of understand where those numbers came from. And really, we're going to be hitting on the headlines. So going to have some more shows that go over anything that we missed, but this is going to be the really big storylines that we thought about leaving this game. So still going to be plenty of good stuff, but I'm excited to not only be able to do this, but also, see a lot of smiling faces that can be made a little bit happier in the holiday season. That's always
for sure. So yeah, kind of like you said, a headline show, 30,000 foot, a little bit deeper because as we know, Taylor has already grinded the film in and out like a madman here. So we'll get into that. I did
get my third row. I didn't get my third look over, so I'm sorry if I missed something.
Terrible. I was gonna say I did take a gloss over Drake. We're gonna get into Drake Maye, but I already have it written down for the Drake Maye. I did gloss over some of Drake Maye's all 22 today. The throw to Pop on third down and the throw to Matt Collins down the right sideline. It's why I'm not that concerned about his game yesterday, because he has these plays in his back pocket that he continues to make. But again, we'll get into it later. We'll start with the injury reports here. And again, Taylor, even last night we've talked about the injury luck and all the the Milton Williams last week being the first starter to go on IR this year. And now the report is Will Campbell might not actually miss the season after going down yesterday. That's according to Ian Rappaport. Suffered an MCL sprain. Now Campbell's still getting an MRI today, which will give them further test results to determine severity of the injury, what happened. But it does look like he dodged a bullet, given that yesterday we started the show and the only topic was a potential season ender for Will Campbell. And then Jared Wilson as well, this is according to Rappaport too, suffered a high ankle sprain. The prognosis is 4 to 6 weeks, though he did mention that they're hoping that this is on the shorter side of that 4 to 6 week window. So I logged off our show last night, hopped on the Sports Illustrated back end and wrote up an entire column about Patriots injury luck finally caught up to them. And then this morning, it feels like they still get some good news. So just thoughts on those guys potentially looking like they might miss, anywhere from a couple weeks to a month here. But in the end, maybe being back for a postseason run here in New England.
Will Campbell especially, that was very good to hear because it just sounded pretty grim when everybody talked about it. And obviously, you saw the way he reacted, had to get carted off. Like, it wasn't exactly a pretty situation, but huge sigh of relief that this is not season ending. And obviously, the more severe the injury, the more you're kind of worried about just their long-term futures. You're hoping that they can, recover and they'll have an entire offseason to get more healthy. So there's that, of course. But this is huge because while last night, I'm not quite as terrified by the idea of like Vidarian Lowe having to go in for Will Campbell and Ben Brown having to go in for Jared Wilson, because these are still veterans who are not as athletically gifted as the two people they're replacing, but they played a decent amount of games in the NFL, and you're hoping that once they catch a stride, because, hey, these are two guys in Vidarian Lowe and Ben Brown that are still going to have to build chemistry, learn how to play with each other in a new situation. So there's still that, but they are veterans who've seen a lot of things. So I think the best case scenario is you hope that maybe some of the athletic limitations they have relative to those younger guys and Will Campbell and Jared Wilson are made up for by their experience, and they can kind of cut the difference there. It's going to impact the run game. We've talked about that. Ironically, Ben Brown, I think, has actually been a better run blocker than Jared Wilson, whereas Will Campbell has been one of the Patriots' best run blockers.
Right.
I think there's a step down in Vidarian Lowe. So it'll be interesting to see how exactly that plays out as we go forward. But the point is, huge that the Patriots might be able to get the rookie left side back. And as tough as it is to kind of have that situation in two young players who are learning every week, as we discussed last night, like they weren't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but you were seeing the impressive flashes and the promising things that you wanted from two guys that were thrust into a very difficult situation. But good news that they're going to be back at some point. For now, you just got to weather the storm, which of course is easy when you got like the Giants and the Ravens on the schedule. And even I'll throw the Dolphins in there. They're no slouches front.
I mean, that they really, I can't stress enough how much they dodged a bullet with Will Campbell. I mean, Jared Wilson too, obviously, but it felt yesterday that, okay, it wasn't some sort of, like a tear, right? That we thought Will Campbell was. Let's just be frank about it. I thought he blew out his knee, and it doesn't seem like that is fully the case right now. Again, waiting on the MRI, but it's almost like we thought Jared Wilson would be high ankle sprain, out maybe a month, and could come back. The Will Campbell situation, getting carted off, towel over the head. It felt like he not only was going to potentially be done for the rest of the season, but if it was as bad as we thought, he could have missed the beginning of next season too. So the fact that it's changed from that to potentially being back for a stretch run and a playoff run is, could not be more of a 180 from what we saw last night. Now, and especially too, because I don't think Vidarian Lowe is a good enough player to take them to where they want to go throughout the end of the season. Now, he is a decent spot starter, can, like you said, potentially help them weather the storm over the next couple weeks to the month. But man, if they can get to the postseason once, even if, say they get the 1 seed, right? Then that gives them an extra week to maybe get healthier and go from there. And same with Milton Williams as well. So they're in a good spot here with these injuries. That's unfortunate, but everybody, as we know, the injury rate in the NFL is 100%, as Mike Vrabel likes to say. So,
no one feels bad for you. You got to figure that shit out.
Exactly right. So, it's unfortunate that they're dealing with it at this point. Having the late bye week could maybe have hurt them a little bit here, but it gives them a chance to get healthy now. Down again, like I said, for this stretch run. So overall, good news there. I would say compared to last night anyway. Will Campbell looking like an MCL sprain, waiting on an MRI, and Jared Wilson suffering a high ankle sprain with a prognosis of 4 to 6 weeks, though apparently the hope from the Patriots is that is on the shorter side. So
before we move on, it was asked during the press conference, Mike Vrabel, whether it was going to be Vidarian Lowe or Marcus Bryant playing at that left tackle spot, which actually is a fair question because Marcus Bryant played left tackle in college. So that's really where he's more acclimated. Granted, he's been learning pro technique and spent a lot of time on the right side. Don't know in practice how exactly that's gone, but it was a fair question. Mike Vrabel said that it was too early to know what exactly that plan would be, but I would think it makes a lot more sense to start Vidarian Lowe, who has way more experience, not just in the NFL, but actually against starting caliber competition, versus Marcus Bryant, who was fine. He only was in there for about a handful of snaps because Morgan Moses left for a while, then came back as he was dealing with an illness. So there's always the possibility that they surprise us, but just on paper, I don't see how it would make much more sense unless Vidarian is really struggling in practice. And we'll get into him a little bit later, but there were even parts of his game that I thought continued to improve from last year. So I know we tend to think players are stagnant in their development, and I understand we've seen what Vidarian Lowe is like against starters. He has his limitations. I'm not trying to act like he doesn't, but I also think it's fair to acknowledge that when you're talking about who's going to replace Will Campbell at left tackle, I don't know how many other backups in the NFL you would really want at that
Totally.
spot. And also going to be at least interesting to see how Vidarian Lowe quits himself now that he's been under a different offensive coaching staff, because last year he's under Scott Peters. He's been in different situations. So maybe he took another step in his growth now that he's been working under Doug Marrone. And just for that reason, again, I think it makes more sense for him to start for Will Campbell than it does for Marcus Bryant outside of some emergency situation.
Well, I think I'm with you there too now, because, and I floated it a couple times last night on the show, given, I guess, like you said, the limitations of Lowe and the more of the unknown with Bryant. But like we said, we saw Morgan Moses go out last week. So say they do put Marcus Bryant on the left side, get him equated there, and then Morgan Moses goes down. You're not going to you might put Lowe on the right side, but you're much more comfortable with him on the left. So exactly. I knew you were going to do that, because you hate Vidarian Lowe, the right tackle. Vidarian Lowe, the right tackle, you're not a fan of. So if then they would have to,
I don't hate anybody but Deshaun Watson, to be fair. I don't hate anybody but that pest.
Okay, fair. Okay, you're right.
And Justin Tucker.
Who got a workout
just naming
today?
all the verbs, my bad.
Did you see that? He got a workout today with
the Saints.
Yeah. Mind blowing. Don't do that. Don't do it. It's so easy to just not do that. Anyway.
What's the record even? What's the record
like
right now?
2-10 or 2-9 or something.
What the heck? Oh my God.
I know. Yep.
Games, dude. What do you
Just it's an
I'd rather use the punter. I'd rather use the punter or like a 12-year-old who has inexperience playing soccer than a straight up pest.
It's so easy to just not, seriously, I can't understand how easy it is to just not do that, to just bring in different kickers. Like, it's not that hard. Anyway, it's conversation for another day, but crazy. At any rate, Patriots first team to 10 wins here, Taylor. I'm trying to think of how I want to do this. 11 minutes. I was looking at an ad read, but I'll wait. We'll do this first. Patriots first team to 10 wins here. Top of the NFL right now. Are they Super Bowl contenders? And we've talked about this. We've done this before. They could get the bye, and then they would have home field advantage, and they could squeak by XYZ teams, and they're playing up against the best. They're playing up to their competition against the Bills and the Buccaneers, etc. But we were texting about this last night, which is kind of the reason why we brought this up and wanted it to be a conversation. Like, watching some other teams this weekend, like the LA Rams, or even, call me crazy, but like the Chiefs, and their backs are against the wall, and they're able to just got one out against Indy, granted on their home turf, but Indy was one of the best teams in the AFC earlier this season. So after watching yesterday's game, they struggle a little bit against Cincinnati. We know they have their flaws. We'll talk about them when we break down the film a little bit more, but how much more or less comfortable are you calling the Patriots a potential contender to win the Super Bowl this season?
I think that in the AFC, they have a chance to get there.
Okay.
And that's because I do feel that this is a very volatile conference. Like, the best team other than the Patriots, you would say, are the Broncos. And that's really the team because their defense is so good and because they are so well coached. Bo Nix obviously is a young guy who has his own limitations, but he has so much playing experience. He's shown that he can be clutch and make big plays, and they've got a really good complement around him, offensive line-wise and skill position-wise. The Broncos are the only team where and the Colts, although they have also been up and down, and I feel like they're another team where, hey, if you bring your A game, you can absolutely compete. But I think that this conference is unsteady enough that they really could beat anybody on any given weekend. But if you talk about the Super Bowl, this is going to sound crazy. Mm-hmm. I don't want them to make the Super Bowl. I do not need, because now granted, they have a lot of veterans that have championship experience, playoff experience, like Milton Williams and Carlton Davis have Super Bowl rings. So it's not like they're this young team that has no idea what it takes to perform at that level. And they've obviously blown away expectations. The resilience they've shown, the mental toughness, what they've been able to do has been absolutely outstanding. But they're still missing pieces where I think the depth, while I think they have good depth at certain spots, it's not so much so that you feel comfortable about them playing really good teams. Like, hey, you might be missing a star, but there's all these other people that are really going to step up. I think the guys have absolutely done that, but watching the Rams really put things into perspective.
Yeah.
Like, this is a team that has been successful for a long time, and they do things the right way. They've established a ridiculous roster, great receiving cast around the best quarterback in football. Matthew Stafford genuinely looks like a maxed out Madden quarterback with the things that he does. But also, like, if you could use VR and do the no-look stuff and just all these crazy things, like, he's playing out of his mind. We know what Sean McVay is as a coach. The defense is fantastic. So many young players making plays. Like, you're hoping, I think, the Patriots become the Rams, where kind of like Craig Woodson, a 4th-round pick who starts the entire year for you and plays really good football. You're hoping that some of those mid-round picks, as the Patriots continue to grow, can develop into these players that are making a difference for you every single week, but they're not there yet. This is still a roster that I think is a year at least, because I think they've jumped so far. I think it'll be a little easier for them to attract some talent at key spots, but you need to build through the draft. And I think you're still a couple years away from me feeling that you are a true contender because you have that depth and there's so much young talent and guys that are stepping up. Now, granted, if Drake Maye takes another step in his evolution, that changes things. But as we'll talk about, I don't think he's quite there yet, where he still makes the incredible plays and you're like, okay, it's not like he's not at all in the MVP race anymore. He's doing crazy things every single week, but he's also making the kind of mistakes that you don't see Stafford make. Like, what's the stat? He's 28-0 touchdown interception ratio, Stafford, in his past, however many games, like that kind of stuff. Where when we have the MVP conversation about Drake Maye and say, well, you know, he's doing a lot of great things, but there's still the turnover-worthy plays, putting your team in bad spots that just don't scream MVP to me, even though the highs are very high. It's sobering when you think about the Super Bowl as well, because that was a game yesterday where the beginning and end did not go well for Drake Maye. Right. And if other people hadn't kind of done their part and helped somewhat bail him out, then you're talking about a different outcome. And against a team like the Rams, I think they would just steamroll any weaknesses you have personnel-wise. So while I still think they can make the Super Bowl, and I really do believe that they are going to make some noise in the playoffs, I think the NFC has a few teams that really do make me nervous, and that I think it would look really bad if this team, at this point in their development, went up against an established franchise like the Rams, like the Eagles, who've been there before, are absolutely stacked on their roster, and have players who will stress you consistently in ways that I don't think we've seen this team stressed on a consistent basis yet this season.
Yeah, Stafford has thrown 3, 6, 7, 12. Hold on. 16, 20. 25 touchdowns and 0 interceptions since week 3. His last pick is week 3. Ridiculous.
Bro, how many fumbles does he have? Does he?
I don't have it right on hand. Hold on. Let me see if I can figure it out. Shoot.
I'm trying to look it up.
I don't have rushing right in front of me, but regardless, it's ridiculous. The fact that he's just, again, his stat line, 30 touchdowns, 2 picks. 5th in passing yards. He is the MVP.
I don't even care if you have the turnover-worthy plays. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's the best quarterback in football. No question. So, and on that, I'm just looking at like the standings for the entire league right now, though. Like, the Rams scare me. They do. Philly probably scares me because, like you said, they won it last year. Though in the AFC, which is what we'll talk about here now quickly, is just kind of running through like who is in their way. Denver, I don't know if they scare me because of the quarterback.
Everybody else, everything else does, though, with Denver. Everything
else.
I
know. Their defense is so filthy. You're right. No, you're totally right. They have the experienced coach. They have the Super Bowl winning coach. Baltimore is on a roll here, and they do have the quarterback in Lamar that can be scary. And then I look at Kansas City, who's 6-5, and just kind of waiting on the outskirts here. And if they do make a run, it is obviously super dangerous come January. But
how do you feel about the Bears and the Seahawks? And the Packers,
I don't know,
bro. Like, I mean,
Packers are a good team. Yeah, I know.
Like, good quarterbacks who, if they bring their A game, are going maybe not light you up, but they can do things that you don't see very often. Where the margin for error that we talk about, where it's like, I feel like another offense might exploit this. I feel like they're just gonna spam those, and these quarterbacks are just gonna put the ball wherever they want, and the defenses are so scary. Like, the NFC is very different from the AFC this season.
100%. No, I'm with you. The Packers, like you said, they worry me a bit. Chicago, I don't know. I feel like they're like the Patriots in the NFC, a little bit too young. New head coach, young quarterback playing well.
But they're doing it in a harder conference.
That's also a good point.
You know, like, let's see their schedule. Let's see their schedule. They literally feel like the NFC mirror version of the Patriots.
Yeah, I know.
Let's see. So they lost the first 2 games against Minnesota and Detroit. Very fair. They blew out the Cowboys. They beat the Raiders, which the Patriots didn't do. They beat the Commanders, the Saints. They got blown out by the Ravens. Then they beat they play a lot of similar teams. They beat the Bengals.
Yeah,
they beaten the Giants. They beat the Vikings, and they beaten the Steelers. So they beat some teams that you didn't beat. And again, this does feel weirdly like a very mirrored schedule, but they have a harder division too. So they're playing tougher teams, and they at least have that experience against juggernauts like the Lions. And I guess the Vikings aren't really a juggernaut because of JJ McCarthy, but like they're a wagon as well in pretty much every other spot. So
one other AFC team that low-key scares me a bit here is the Texans. Their defense is also filthy. If CJ Stroud comes back, and I know Davis Mills is playing well right now, but it feels like Stroud and Nick Haley might not be on the same page offensively, but if they get him and Nico Collins going in the postseason. That defense, like we saw it against Buffalo, shut them down. That's a scary team you might have to play on, divisional round weekend or something. But I'm totally with you across the board. The AFC is easier. I do wonder, you kind of, and we'll close it out with this. You mentioned you'd rather not get to the Super Bowl than get blown out. I'm trying to like put the two situations next to each other. Would you rather like lose a close game, AFC Championship, call it at home, but against the Chiefs? Or would you rather beat the Chiefs at home in the AFC Championship game and then go and lose by like 30, or not 30, that's a lot of points, lose by like 20 to the Rams in the Super Bowl?
So kind of like a Commander situation last year where you make it almost to the big game. I would rather that, to be honest, because they have blown away expectations already. No one thought they were going to get, even I would have looked at you a little crazy with my prediction if you had said they were going to make it to the AFC Championship game. I'd be like, are you sure? I'm not saying I don't believe you, but I think that's very, very optimistic. So I'm fine with that. I think if they lose to the Chiefs, no one's batting an eye. Unless they like shoot themselves in the foot or something like that, no one's going to be upset that a team that won 4 games each of the past 2 years got to the AFC Championship game and couldn't quite cross the finish line. I'd be more than happy with losing to Mahomes versus getting mollywopped by the Rams or the Eagles, who are just absolute wagon and have been built up over years and years to be able to withstand attrition and be able to have success in the postseason. So yeah, I would still rather lose in the AFC Championship.
No, you're right, because if you put those up next to each other too, like, okay, you lose a tight one to the Chiefs, it's like, oh, okay, it was close, it's the Chiefs. There's almost confidence there where we know we can compete and we're on the right track. Where if they do go and get blown out by the NFC, it's like, oh, we're a lot farther away than we think, and it might kind of change the thinking.
Like what narrative is going to be the most fun to cover?
Yeah.
Not the one where they get blown out. That's for damn sure.
100%. All right. Well, that's a look at, Super Bowl and the state of the AFC where the Patriots currently sit atop the conference. We're going to dive into the Patriots win at Cincinnati a little bit more here. Take a look through Taylor's film notes on Drake Maye, the secondary, and also the run defense, and the Patriots' abysmal red zone offense, might I add. We'll dive into all that in just a second. But first, I got to tell you guys about our friends over at PrizePicks, because as you know, this episode and every episode of Patriots Daily is brought to you by PrizePicks. It is officially the holiday season, the best time of year for sports. We have bowl games, basketball, playoff pushes, and it's all happening all at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every single day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which games to watch, there is one place where it feels good to be right, and that is on PrizePicks. They now have a new feature alert. Hear me out. A new feature alert on PrizePicks called Early Payouts. So if your lineup gets off to a hot start, and you may, if your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. So you can take advantage of that. You pick a couple players early, a couple players late still in your lineup. If they're rolling, you'll have a cash out option now on PrizePicks. Super simple to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. And if you get your picks right, you could cash in. So do not wait. Sign up today. Download the PrizePicks app. Use code CLNS and you will get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that is code CLNS. You get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, let's talk about Drake Maye. You mentioned it a little bit there. I know you talked about it a little bit earlier. After watching it over again, some more good than bad. Obviously, he had the rough start, the pick 6, not just a bad throw. He knows it. He'll admit it, what have you. And the end of the game wasn't great either. Some worries or some problems, I guess, down in the red zone. We'll get to red zone in a second, but just want to get your thoughts overall on Maye. 22 at 35, a career high, 294 yards. Still can't get over that damn 300-yard mark. Poor Drake Maye. Did have the 1 touchdown pass and obviously the interception. But taking a look overall, watching it over again, what did you see from the Patriots quarterback that has you, I guess, more optimistic than pessimistic, compared to last night, I guess?
So there was definitely more good than bad, and that is very important. It's just that the bad was really bad. Like the kinds of things where JT O'Sullivan, who does a great job over at QB School breaking down quarterbacks and especially draft prospects in the offseason, he brought up how Drake Maye will make 3 to 5 plays a game that make your jaw hit the floor. But he also has the kind of misses that you just don't really see from NFL quarterbacks. And he had them often in college, or at least too often for it to not be a significant concern, which even we acknowledged. I love Drake Maye, but I was like, yeah, he's got to get this accuracy figured out because same reason. These are some horrendous misses that he has and the occasional boneheaded play. I will say, I didn't think his ball security was as bad as I did post-game. I had Drake Maye's ball security in the stock down category after the game. I will say he still threw the interception. I don't care if it wasn't a bad decision. And it was just so weird because he missed behind and high on Hunter Henry, which makes me wonder whether it was just a bad throw or if they were also on different pages, just like we saw a few weeks ago on a similar throw. But still, I was like, okay, I kind of want to give him a pass for that. And then the other near interception, which we'll talk about, I just thought that one had more to do with maybe the scheme and him not having great answers. Another thing we'll get into in a second, but I just didn't like the quality of bad plays. So I'll just by the numbers, I think they do a really good job of showing what this game was. So this was Drake's most inaccurate game in his entire career. It looked that way live, and we actually got confirmation. So for games where he had at least 10 attempts, 46.9% of his throws were accurate. That was the second lowest in his career behind week 10 against Tampa Bay when he was at 48.1. That game, you'll remember, there were some kind of weird misses, especially early in the game.
Right.
Which really hurt his numbers. Yeah, he had the rain, and there were even some other ones where he did miss in some uncharacteristic fashion, but it's like, oh, you don't have Keyshawn Boutte. Some of these misses were downfield. You kind of understand. Those were the only 2 times in his career, again, with 10 attempts, that he was accurate on fewer than 50% of his throws. So, again, I understand that given the situation, it was, it was just a bad game. And he had the bad start. I didn't love that he also had a bad miss later in the game. That was pretty disappointing because, like, Matt Collins is running open and he throws behind him. Obviously, the play against the blitz wasn't great. But so, first of all, his least accurate game, and I think you saw that in the tape, not exactly surprising. Someone's knocking on my door, and it's kind of freaking me out. Can you stall real quick while I go see who it is?
Yeah, go check it out.
What the hell is
Well, what we can do actually is we can fit in an ad read here. I would sit and talk Drake Maye for a while, but we have about less than 900 people, a little bit more. So I'll tell you guys about our friends over at Omaha Steaks, if I can find the B-roll, because the holiday season is here. And Omaha Steaks is one of the great presenting sponsors of the Patriots Daily podcast and the CLNS Media Network. Whether you're sending an unforgettable gift or treating yourself to everyday perfection, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience. So gift USDA certified steak tenders, juicy burgers, cozy and convenient comfort meals, and so much more right now on omahasteaks.com. They have a 50% off site-wide sale, and you can also get an extra 20% off select favorites at omahasteaks.com, plus an additional $35 off with promo code Patriots at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. Again, it's holiday season coming up. Omaha Steaks has great deals right now. Use code Patriots, and you will get 50% off right now site-wide, extra 20% off on select favorites, and then the code Patriots gives you an extra $35 off with that promo code. Everything good?
Yeah, it was maintenance.
Oh, good. Okay, awesome.
Getting something fixed, so that's good.
There you go. All right, go ahead. Go ahead on your Drake Maye from Diatribe.
Well, speaking of throws, also on Drake Maye with his inaccuracy, it was the second worst game in terms of throws that weren't even catchable. I believe the worst was that Tampa Bay game, and it was the worst game of his career for games that were catchable but inaccurate. In other words, there were times where he would complete the pass, but he would prevent his receivers from getting yards after the catch. Drake Maye has even said he's been taught for a long time, and the way he sees it is to be accurate, you have to set your guys up for yak. So we've been critical of that at certain points. sometimes, you don't want to be unfair. Like if the guy's scrambling, there were some plays where he's on the move, like when he tried to throw to Hunter Henry while scrambling. It wasn't perfectly on him. And those, you kind of give a little bit of a pass, but it was worse when he was in the pocket and still not putting the ball on his receivers. Even on some of the downfield completions, he wasn't putting it in places where he was leading them upfield. It would force guys to make adjustments again, even on the highlights. Another thing that kind of bothered me about this game was the Patriots blitz answers, specifically against cover 0, because doing research for the game, I saw that the Bengals were one of the higher teams in the NFL when it came to cover 0 use. So I knew they had to have some answers. Usually Josh McDaniels and Drake Maye are very good in this area. This was one of Drake Maye's worst games against the blitz this season. So he had the 3rd most dropbacks against the blitz, his lowest completion rate against the blitz this season at 33.3%, the 2nd fewest yards per attempt at 5.9, tied for the 3rd fewest conversions with only 4, and his passer rating was a 54.5. That is his lowest against the blitz this season. And coming into this game, he had 101.4 passer rating against the blitz, which was the 3rd highest in the NFL behind, I believe, Lamar Jackson and Sam Darnold. Very uncharacteristic. The ones that really stood out to me were, one, I think we discussed some of these on the show, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I didn't really change my opinion on this one when I look back at it, where he throws uncatchable to Hunter Henry. That one I think was a throwaway, something to kind of factor into the inaccuracy. That's going to count as inaccurate, but it seemed like it was on the line where he was just trying to make a smart play, because you had Hunter Henry on an out with his defender in outside leverage, and then you had Stephon Diggs breaking inside, but his defender was sitting on an inside breaking route. Usually against 0, you need something that's going to get the ball out of your hands quickly. And it didn't feel like he had any realistic options to do that, especially since it was 3rd and 6, which isn't a long enough situation that I felt like they needed to press the ball downfield. And it didn't seem like Drake had an adjustment. Like that may have been what was called in the huddle. You could not run that play versus the look that you got where they have everybody on the line of scrimmage and then defensive backs literally just sitting there. So I was disappointed by that one. The last play to Stephon Diggs, I honestly put that even more on the situation around Drake Maye. I still don't like the decision to throw the pass. But so there's a problem. One, Vidarian Lowe didn't block the inside most guy. I think he got kind of confused there. But there was still going to be an inside rusher getting home, because it seemed like Hunter Henry, who had gone in motion before, was supposed to block the edge and give Drake Maye time to push the ball downfield. But they didn't have enough pass blockers. So Drake got the ball, was literally immediately under pressure because of that interior heat, throws the ball anticipating an out to Stephon Diggs, but the Patriots are running a go and an out to that side of the field. The person covering the go was waiting on the quarterback to throw because he knew pressure was going to get there, which partially led to Drake Maye throwing what looked like a near pick 6. It also wasn't very accurate because he was kind of fading away. But that whole situation felt off to me. And I really just in general, I'll break this more. I'll break this down more when we do our Drake Maye breakdown. It's going to come out first for members, and then it'll come out for everybody else. But really, I was disappointed in how they responded to some of those situations. And I thought it put Drake Maye in some bad spots. Also asked Mike Vrabel. I was hoping to get an answer on all of the kind of blitz packages and how they felt that they responded to those. But the other where he got sacked, I was curious what exactly Drake should have done, because Demario Douglas was running an out and his defender was the one who blitzed. So the out was open, but the slot corner got there so fast, I didn't know if Drake could actually make the throw. And Mike Vrabel said he probably just should have thrown it into the dirt, but did give him credit for not making a bad play worse. And that, I agree with that. Just like the Hunter Henry play, good job by not putting it in a bad spot. Stephon Diggs play, maybe not so much, even though the situation wasn't great around him. Also, on downfield throws, as I mentioned, even on the completions, Drake wasn't exactly perfect, and this was one of his worst downfield passing days. So, 3rd most downfield attempts, that means 10 or more air yards. The 4th lowest completion rate on downfield throws that he's had this season. And this kind of shows the duality of where Drake is fantastic and does all the crazy shit, but also really needs to clean things up. 3 big-time throws, tied for his most on downfield attempts all season. Also, just period. You don't have short big-time throws. But 2 turnover-worthy plays, which were the most that he's had all season. So that 3-to-2 ratio of big-time throws to turnover-worthy plays is not ideal. You'd like that to be 3-0, right? At worst 3-1. But there's the duality. He'll do the great things, but he also needs to clean some stuff up. And his 99 passer rating on downfield throws was his 4th lowest this season. Now, you had the great ones like the Mac Hollins drop in the bucket where he converts the quick out because he has press coverage, runs a fade, great throw from Drake Maye. Like you mentioned, ridiculous throw to
ridiculous. That was a handoff. Oh, sorry.
Literally.
The Mac Hollins one was a straight up handoff over that guy's
Both
head.
of them were because and the one to Pop reminded me of the Jaguars game last year because that was the last time I remember
the throw to
KJ Osborne
in the end zone. Yes, yeah.
Where that was the last time I remember him specifically attacking the pole runner or the person who's supposed to cover the inside vertical and run with them. Usually he likes those hole shots, but if you're afraid of Drake Maye attacking your pole runner and those hole shots, I don't know how often teams are going to want to keep running Tampa 2 against him because even the unconventional stuff, it doesn't throw him off. He's pretty much used to where it's coming from. He's clearly very well prepared and knows to some degree when it's coming and isn't rattled by it. So, I mean, those were fantastic. But also, even the throws over the middle where he's got guys wide open, kind of throwing it behind him, just wasn't really on his A game. And look, young quarterback, not the worst thing in the world. We always have to have these caveats of while Drake Maye does things that you see from some of the best quarterbacks in the league who've been doing this for a long time, he is still learning. He is going to have games where it seems like it's uncharacteristic, but he's still learning. I don't think he gave much of an explanation on why he had such a slow start, but it's a trend that he needs to buck. Because this is not the first time. If anything, I think more often than not, you see him kind of come out of the gate slow before picking it up. And the resilience for him to have that whole stretch in the middle where he was truly dialed in. Like, this wasn't a game where I'm like, oh, he's holding onto the ball too long. He's missing wide open receivers. Obviously, there was the one where he had 3 guys open and just threw to nobody. That was pretty weird. But during that stretch where he was playing well, it was very, very impressive. So, cut out the first couple of drives and that last throw and that last drive because he had a couple misses, even though we had the completion of Stephon Diggs. So you cut those out and you're talking about a much different performance. So great to see him show the mental toughness to be better, but there's still absolutely things he needs to iron out, which is par for the course with these young passers.
Yeah, I'm with you. And like the Patriots in general, maybe not the margin of error, maybe that's not the right word, but their expectations now have shifted. So 3-4 weeks ago, week 2 or 3, this would have been, a great game for Drake Maye, given that, he only struggled in the beginning, he only struggled in the end, and he really found his groove. But now we expect so much given where he is in the MVP conversation. We kind of got to take a step back and realize he is only 23. He still went out there, won them a football game. He still has a lot to learn, yada, yada, yada. Defenses are going to throw a little bit different stuff at him each and every week, and he's going to have to adjust, which, again, we saw him adjust after that first drive, throughout the course of that game. And then, like you said, had the hiccups at the end a little bit. But overall, decent day for Maye. What wasn't decent, though, want to hit on quickly here with this Patriots offense, was their execution in the red zone. They get down there twice. They fail to score on both trips. Taylor is disgusted if you're watching the show. He's got the stank face on. And it was really bad, especially that drive in the beginning of the second half where essentially bashing their heads against the wall. They ran it on 3rd and 4th down in a row. I know you mentioned last night you weren't too put off by their decision to run on 4th down. I'm curious what you think now, having watched it over again. In general, just what happened down in their red zone. Also burning 2 timeouts, which just shouldn't have had to happen that early in the game. You set yourself up for failure if you're in a situation later on and you need to stop the clock, etc. So after watching it over again, how bad was it? What are your thoughts? And what can they do to fix it? Because, again, that was really, really bad yesterday down in the red zone.
And I still felt like it had more to do with the execution than the plays called. I didn't think there were really any plays that put them in bad spots. I just thought that somebody missed or 2 people missed or bad decisions were made that resulted in them being so poor. So I'm going to go through this kind of play-by-play with a little summary of what I thought of each one of these reps. So Drake Maye started out. He had 1st and 5 at Cincinnati 5, 11 minutes and 16 seconds. Incomplete pass, short left. It was a very funky play. And it reminded me of last week against the Jets where they clearly had a lot of man-beating concepts where you would see receivers running across the field, but it didn't look like they were trying to get open. It's kind of in that more staggered way where they're clearly trying to run interference for somebody else, often Hunter Henry. That was what it looked like. But this play, I couldn't tell whether it was a zone read or a triple option. So you fake, or at least you fake or whatever, have run action to Travion Henderson from the left to the right. To the right side, Mac Hollins blocked somebody in the end zone, right? So he clearly thinks it's a run. The offensive line is not moving forward. They're blocking like there's an option to pass on the play. So I'm thinking, okay, it's got to be some type of triple option in that case because clearly there's a disconnect here. And to be fair, Matt Collins has had some weird miscommunications before. Maybe that's it. But the other problem is that Hunter Henry is coming on a sift block and he's taking the edge. But the way the play is designed on the other side, Kayshon Boutte looked like he was setting a pick because he just kind of ran and stood there like he was waiting for somebody to run into him. And with Drake Maye rolling out, I was thinking, okay, is Hunter Henry supposed to be out there blocking in front of him, not blocking the edge? Sometimes you'll see that kind of influence block where you kind of flash in front of the edge to get them confused and you keep going and block somebody out in front of the quarterback. It was very confusing. I didn't know what exactly was going on. And I feel like that was something that happened last week as well, where it was kind of confusing execution in the red zone. So that was the first one. I don't know what the play was, but it kind of felt like it was dead on arrival. Then you had the 3rd and 1 where Vidarian Lowe reported as eligible. Ben Brown was already in the game. And Drake Maye threw incomplete to the middle to Hunter Henry. Honestly, great play by former Patriot Joe Giles Harris. So at first, he bites on the run fake, and Hunter Henry actually gets wide open, but it took a second for Drake Maye off the bootleg action to find him. Giles recovers enough to get under the route, and then Drake Maye and Hunter Henry communicate. So Hunter Henry cuts back. Then Joe Giles falls when Hunter Henry reverses field and still manages to get up. And Drake Maye put this right on the money to Hunter Henry. And I think he just stood there not realizing Giles Harris wasn't on the ground anymore. Maybe if he'd, attacked the ball, it would have been different. But it was an incredible effort from Giles Harris to get up and then punch that ball out. Honestly, that one I'm giving to the defense. Really great play from him. Not going to give them a mark there. Then you have the penalty on Kayshon Boutte. All right, so we have a new set of downs. The run game. So again, Vidarian Lowe is ineligible. They run outside zone, to the left. Vidarian Lowe gets stood up and shed at the point of attack. Terrell Jennings gets stuffed in the hole by the play side linebacker and the play side edge defender. Now, you could have said, and I think the Patriots next year really need a running back who can run through an MFer's face and where when you get met in the hole, you don't go backwards and more often than not, you're winning. They just don't really have that guy right now. But yeah, Terrell Jennings gets stuffed and Vidarian Lowe is also stood up. So that play goes nowhere. Moving on, this was after their second time out in the red zone. 3rd and 1, Stevenson right guard for no gain. So Ramondre Stevenson got stuffed by the backside linebacker. Jack Westover was in front of him. And I wonder, so he goes up and kind of blocks the defensive tackle, even though the linebacker was coming next to him and seemed like the more dangerous threat to me. I don't know. I think he was doing what he was told, but I feel like as a fullback, you have to be a fixer, which is a fine line. We also saw like a couple weeks ago, the toss where he tries to go backside because he thinks there's a threat and he blows everything up. But I'm thinking, man, you have to get something on him. Otherwise, you're asking Ramondre Stevenson to break a tackle right after he gets the handoff. So it kind of felt like maybe Jack Westover could have done more. But also, Morgan Moses lost inside, and Matt Collins was outside of the formation when I think he should have been closer inside so we could insert the way we see sometimes. Because he had no chance of getting to his assignment. So that play just felt like a combination of maybe something you could have tweaked pre-snap, but also just being dead on arrival because it was poor execution or not sufficient execution. Left guard for no gain for Ramondre Stevenson again. And people, every time Ramondre has a bad game, people automatically assume it's him, which I think is so funny considering how often he gets tackled in the backfield. And that was an example. Almost all of his goal line or red zone carries, he was met by at least one defender in the backfield, sometimes two. This time, he was met by two different defenders on an RPO. This was the 4th down. Some people didn't like it. I understand you see a run from the shotgun, inexcusable all the time. Not really, because Drake had the option to either pull it and run himself or primarily to throw it to Hunter Henry. I think running himself would have been more of like a third option if everything had broken down. But pre-snap, Stephon Diggs even pointing that there's a problem, and it kind of reminded me of the Miami game where he scored against Judon because he didn't have anyone to block him, where the Dolphins were technically in a 4-man front, but when they had a safety on the line, it presented more of a 5-man front, and they didn't have the bodies to block either of the edge defenders. So Ramondre gets the handoff and is met by two different people, despite the fact that Hunter Henry drew man coverage and might have had space in the flat if you threw it to him. Worst case scenario, you throw it, he's met at the goal line and tries to power through. So again, I didn't have a problem with the play call there. It was just bad execution. I think Drake Maye could have pulled it. And I think Phil Perry tried to ask about that today. Like, was there anything Drake could have done different? And he kind of curd about it. So, but yeah, I just based on the football that I've seen in my life, it felt like that was a bad decision on Drake Maye's part. Later on, you had Ramondre Stevenson stuffed on an inside zone run by an unblocked play-side linebacker and strong safety. That time, Garrett Bradbury slipped on a combo with Mike Nwenu, so he couldn't get to the second level. That left the play-side linebacker unblocked. And also, Hunter Henry allowed pretty quick penetration as well. Then you had a throwaway later on against an inside blitzer. Inside zone carry, you got strong push from Lowe, Austin Hooper, and Hunter Henry. Jack Westover also did well. That was their only positive run, I think, in the red zone where Travion Henderson got them right back to the goal line. Unfortunately, Drake Maye on the quarterback sneak. So when you look pre-snap, there is a defender in the gap between Mike Nwenu and Morgan Moses. Understandably, Drake Maye tries to go behind Mike Nwenu, his biggest guy. But instead of bouncing it one more gap to get to where the space was, he kind of dives right to where the defensive tackle is, and he doesn't go anywhere. I don't think that Drake is very good at quarterback sneaks. He hasn't been. He wasn't in college. And I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know if it's that he's tall and the way that his body is built. Like, I really don't know what it is, but he looks awkward doing it, and he doesn't get good push really ever. Brady was really good at that. I think part of that was he got very low for a guy who was 6'4", and also had a great feel for where those openings were going to be. I just don't think Drake Maye has that. So another one where you get stopped on 3rd and 1. What the F happened? Well, I don't think your quarterback made a very good decision on a sneak. I also don't like the decision to sneak when you have a pretty long, inches or whatever to go. It didn't feel like enough distance where I trusted it pre-snap when it looked like Drake was going to do it based on his stance. And I just don't think that can't be the best call that you have on 3rd and 1 when you've gone through all this. Maybe it's a short plan, but I don't like the Drake Maye quarterback sneak in that situation. So you can poo-poo the 4th and 1 decision to, call the RPO from the gun if you want. But at the end of the day, you have to execute the plays. If you're in an impossible situation, fine, I understand. But when you have options to do better, or you have an assignment and you can draw the play up and see how it's going to work, and it doesn't go that way, more often than not, it's because the players didn't do their job. And it didn't even really feel like a situation where, why are you running behind your backups and your bad offensive lineman with everybody hurt? Well, Vidarian Lowe was in there as a jumbo lineman, and that was probably going to be Ben Brown in another situation. I didn't hate the decision. He gets stuffed. Okay, you don't do it again. But just you got to be better in those situations. And the Patriots have been inconsistent in the red zone for weeks. So the execution period just needs to be better moving forward.
The Vrabel's reaction to Drake getting stuffed on the QB sneak, and he was like, field goal 3 immediately, like, get them off the damn field. Yeah, literally. He's like, I can't do it. I can't watch it again. We're not getting stuffed here one more time. It does. It has to improve. I'm with you on the QB sneak thing too. There is definitely a feel there where sometimes you're not just gonna go, right up the middle and try and find like a push with those guys. You do need to find those different gaps, etc. Look for, where there's a different 3 or 1 or vice versa, right? And sometimes guys will just go and fall and hope they get the push. So it's kind of a weird art in that form. Like, we've seen the tush push, we've seen Brady do it, and kind of go from there. So at the end of the day, Patriots, we do have a new member too. Shout out Chris Jensen, 756.
Welcome, Chris Jensen.
Appreciate you here. So at the end of the day, offense scores just 19 points, 4 field goals, 1 touchdown. Patriots scored 26, obviously, with the pick 6 from Marcus Jones as well, which is why we're going to hit on the defense real quickly here as well before we get out of here. I will ask you this, Taylor, your 2 defensive notes for the Patriots. First one is that the secondary held up with 0 explosive plays allowed to the Cincinnati Bengals. However, running back Chase Brown went for over 100 yards. The first time the Patriots have let up a 100-yard rusher this season. There continues to be chinks in that run defense armor here. 5.6 yards a carry. He did have a long of 21 as well. So, yes, I know they've had some, obviously, injuries along the defensive line. Milton Williams is hurt. Kyrus Tonga goes down in this one. But on both of these things on defense, where are you at on both of these topics, and how can they fix that run defense? However, like I said, putting them together, I'll hand you the pass defense first, which was pretty solid.
Yeah, so I want to start with the pass defense. I'll get into run defense. I want to talk about replacements as well on both sides of the ball. So we'll kind of ping pong a little bit there.
We can close with that maybe, or
So the pass defense was very good. First of all, Carlton Davis, who's somebody I've been kind of critical of because I've had my reservations just because of his specific type of play style. Sometimes I think it can be tough against really good separators, but he was really good yesterday. Obviously, 3 pass breakups on 1 drive after he had drawn an interference penalty. That was very impressive. I understood where he was kind of coming at it from, where he felt like he was trying to play through the hands and all that. But really, like, you got to look for the ball. If you're not and you're that close to the receiver, you're going to get called. But only allowed 2 catches on 7 targets, according to PFF, allowed 12 yards. Really great bounce back game for Carlton Davis. Also, please listen to his press conference. He was awesome today, talking about the bond of the team and how they have a bond that's greater than any team he's been on. He's been in the NFL for a long time, so that really says a lot. Marcus Jones only allowed 4 catches on 7 targets for 40 yards, 3 conversions, but also had the pick six, obviously, where he started buzzing on that throw before Flacco even thought about going to the check down. So
got him like a
play
damn
for Marcus there. And then when I looked at the film at his pass breakup against Mike Gesicki, I think part of it is the fact that Gesicki actually stumbles trying to come back to the ball, and Marcus Jones is looking at it. I think if the refs had thrown a flag there, people would have been mad, I think, for good reason. I don't think we got, or at least when I was looking, I was doing a lot of things. I didn't think there were a lot of replay angles that showed exactly whether or not he got early or showed the entire duration of the route. But I feel like if there was a pass interference in that situation based on Gesicki slipping and Marcus Jones clearly trying to make a play and not just, kind of flailing over Gesicki because he was out of control, played a part in it. So another good job from Marcus Jones, who is really, I think, putting himself in the Pro Bowl conversation. Christian Gonzalez allowed 4 catches on all 4 of his targets for 32 yards, but only 1 conversion. Outside of also the touchdown that he gave up, which is very uncharacteristic, but hey, did a pretty good job the rest of the game. Also, just T. Higgins was quiet the entire game. So really, you got to give them credit there. Jalen Hawkins dropped the interception, but showed really, really good awareness to actually break on the ball. Came so close. He just got hit in the head by Robert Spillane. There was also a play in 2 minutes where I thought he was in good position to make a play on the ball. I think Flacco held it for a tick longer. That was the completion of T. Higgins that ended up putting them in field goal range. But I thought Jalen Hawkins was solid. Craig Woodson, I feel like the Bengals didn't press that advantage as much as they probably could have, and not as effectively, but only allowed 2 catches on 3 targets, 21 yards, 2 conversions. Not bad for him. Christian Ellis is also very good in his return. Allowed 13 catches on 4 targets, only 2 total catches. And Robert Spillane was also good in coverage. So great day for the pass defense. You needed this because you're playing Joe Flacco. It's a backup. It's not a great offense, but they do have weapons. There was an opportunity for, I think, this pass defense to look worse, and allowing 0 plays of 20 or more yards. I thought that was fantastic. And then we can maybe get into replacements now, and I can get a little bit more into Chase Brown.
Yeah, let's do that. So we'll hit the replacements, and then we can close it with what's going on with the run defense, because as we know, and we talked about at the beginning, a lot of Patriots go down in this game. Obviously, Will Campbell and Jared Wilson, the main ones, but no Milton Williams out there. Kyrus Tonga leaves. Brendan Schooler left as well. So a lot of, like you said, replacements, backups having to come in this game. And at the end of the day, they get the job done, 26-20 win. What did you see from each guy who had to come in under not the best circumstances and kind of pull his own weight here?
Yeah, so one, just acknowledging the run defense, it was not good. Chase Brown was the first running back to have 100 yards against the Patriots. And yes, not having Milton Williams, not having Kyrus Tonga for most of the game, significant blows, and you can't ignore that. It was one thing when they were just missing Milton, but 2 of your best interior defenders, that's going to be tough, and I understand that. But to put it in perspective, it was like one of, if not their worst run defense game of the year. Now, they played light boxes 82% of the time, clearly prioritizing shutting down the pass. They played a lot of cover 2, a lot of quarters. So you understand there wasn't a ton of support. But even still, they're 5.2 yards per carry allowed, the second most they've allowed this season. The most yards before contact per rush at 2.98. The 4th most explosive runs with 3. And this is the biggest one for me. They had the 2nd lowest stuffed run rate for a game this season at 8.7%. That's a Milton Williams stat, because Milton Williams had a 5.8% stuffed run rate. That was the highest for the Patriots for qualified defenders. Now, Mike Vrabel I think it's hard without going into detail to say what your team needs to do better in run defense, because it's build a wall, tackle, swarm, all those things. I think he also acknowledged that there were some, didn't directly, but there were some injuries that played a factor, but also said, hey, we can't give up a big run to the outside on the first play of the game. They allowed another explosive run with the Bengals backed up, where they try to kind of stunt inside and create some traffic, but the defensive line gets completely washed down. Second level gets blocked, and then Chase Brown pops it, and Craig Woodson did a great job with an open field tackle, because that easily could have been a touchdown. Now, looking at the replacements on the defensive line, it wasn't as bad as I expected, because it wasn't like guys were getting blown out of gaps and they weren't even competitive, because that was the case, I think, a couple weeks ago and the week before that, where I was really concerned, where like line games aren't working and it's leading to these huge gaps or guys just getting blown off the ball. There were still defensive linemen making tackles, but the bigger issue was that a lot of the time they were still getting pushed off the ball for like a couple yards that allowed running backs to get ahead of steam and then kind of plow forward for a little bit extra. Not a lot. The Patriots are still very good tackling. They don't allow a lot of yards after contact, but the yards before contact have been the biggest issue for this Patriots defensive front. So starting with Milton Williams and how they replaced him. We talked about this. Christian Barmore probably going to be more the defensive tackle and not really the nose tackle anymore, more single block opportunities. That's what happened. So Christian Barmore had 3 run tackles, including 2 stuffs, wound up on the ground too often, got washed out pretty badly on one run. And that's something I've noticed that when his pad level gets too high, guys will just dirt him, which you don't like to see from a guy who's as good as he is, but he's also making plays for you, especially when he's blocked one-on-one. So it wasn't like a terrible performance from him. I just like to see him be more consistent. Corey Durden had a couple run stops. He did struggle against double teams early on, but I thought he bounced back as the game went on. Also wrecked the screen, so good job there. And so Corey Durden was more of the nose tackle. It was Kairos Tonga and him, but in those 4-down fronts, mostly it was Corey Durden as the nose tackle and Christian Barmore as the defensive tackle. And then in more pass rush situations, there was still some Durden, but that was where you saw more of Jeremiah Farms because what we've said, he's very nimble, probably the most athletic available interior defensive lineman after Christian Barmore. He had a 1 run tackle, did get blown off at times, but in terms of pass rush, he had a hit in 2 wins. So not a bad day for him. So again, Milton Williams, in terms of how he was being replaced, a lot of Christian Barmore playing more of that defensive tackle spot, and Jeremiah Farms being on the field for some pass rush situations, or Corey Durden in some instances as well. Once Kairos Tonga went out, you saw even more of Durden, but also Eric Gregory taking over as that kind of more pure nose tackle. He had a couple hurries in a pass rush win. Didn't make a huge impact against the run in terms of the stat sheet, but I thought he was solid. Definitely got moved at times, but I like his effort, and I'd like to see what happens if they continue to work with him down the line. So that's what happened on the defensive interior in terms of their replacements. And looking at the rest of the defense, I thought sometimes I still feel like linebackers are slow to diagnose what's going on. Like on those outside runs, it felt like even Gibbons and Spillane were sometimes just a tick too late to realize what happened, and that gave guys an edge that probably could have been smothered a little better. Although I thought they were better against especially the jet sweeps as the game went on. Jack Gibbons going downhill was awesome. Spillane was pretty good. It really is just the defensive line needs to actually build that wall, because you see it in the numbers. It's that they're allowing too many yards before the defensive line can make an impact. So whether it's shooting gaps more often, being better on your twists and stunts and things like that, they need to create more disruption, because that disruption was what was offsetting some of the times where maybe defensive linemen were knocked back earlier in the season. So that's for the defense. Then offense-wise, just talking about the replacements for Will Campbell and Jared Wilson when I looked at the film. So obviously Vidarian Lowe went in for Will Campbell. For all the talk about how bad Vidarian Lowe is and how he can't stop a cold, he was fine. He allowed 1 quarterback hit in a hurry. He had 3 losses, but there weren't any that were like egregiously bad. There was one where I actually think he's getting better at his independent hand use, which one of the biggest pet peeves I had with him was his propensity to shoot both hands, especially his first season here, because he's too big and too long. And when he does that, he would get over his skis and put himself in a position where he could not win the rep. And then in terms of run blocking, got stood up on a couple red zone runs, also missed a block versus a stunt where his guy knifed inside. He had to get to a linebacker and didn't. So needs to be better as a run blocker, but pass pro-wise, I thought he was fine, albeit against a not very good Bengals pass rush. Ben Brown allowed 2 hurries, also had a pass rush loss. Those are more early, though. I thought he settled in decently. He was 1 for 3 climbing on outside zone, missed a couple, but he didn't make one, so credit there. And he also had a nice block when he was pulling on a counter run. So both those guys I thought were up and down, but given, the situation you're in for those being depth guys and they're veterans, right? They're not guys that have been in the league or Ben Brown's been in the league for a while, actually, sneaky, but
he's been a practice squatter, like a veteran practice squatter. He's been around a lot, so he's seen a lot too. Right.
Exactly. And both guys did play last season, so they have starts under their belt. I really think you could be in a much worse situation, although you are probably going to have to scheme around them. And Brendan Schooler, they actually didn't punt once Brendan Schooler went out, so you didn't have to see any gunner reps. So I don't even know who replaced him there. But on punt return, it looked like he was replaced by Jalen Hawkins near the line of scrimmage. And then on kick return, it looked like he was replaced by Craig Woodson. Still don't know exactly what Schooler's status is. I believe Andy Borgala said that he was in good spirits, so that's always a positive. But in terms of the replacements, no one really made up for the loss of Milton Williams, and I think the offensive line did the best they could and were solid replacing Will Campbell and Jared Wilson, because obviously that was a situation that very easily could have been a disaster. I thought they acquitted themselves fairly well, all things considered.
Schooler was an ankle. Is that right?
Yes.
He's dealing with an ankle as well. So, the unfortunate that the injury bug is hitting these guys here. Luckily, looking at their between their Jets game and their Buffalo game coming up, they're only going to play 2 games in a month, with Cincinnati last week, New York, and then the bye. You look at November 14th to December 13th, 2 games from there. So they do have enough time here to rest up, get themselves rolling for this stretch run, which again includes Buffalo, Baltimore, before you finish it out with New York and Miami post bye here. But as we know, Patriots win 26-20. Good news on the injury front, as we mentioned. Will Campbell looking like an MRI sprain pending, an MCL sprain pending an MRI, and Jared Wilson dealing with a high ankle sprain, 4 to 6 week prognosis. Besides that, that's our breakdown here on the Patriots win at Cincinnati. Good stuff here, Taylor, as always. Thank you for the nitty-gritty prep work and breaking down the film for us here. We'll be back again tomorrow with a more in-depth Drake Maye breakdown on the channel. Chris Jensen, hello.
Making a great impression as a new member, brother. Thank you very much. We
appreciate it. Great points and bring receipts better than the other talking heads at Patriots.
Oh, is he maybe referring to that 10+ wins article, maybe?
Perhaps, yeah. The receipts were dropped yesterday, for sure, from CLNS Media.
I'm gonna be so insufferable if they really get to 13 wins. Y'all are,
and I don't blame you. I don't blame you. That you got dragged. You got dragged for that, and I dragged you too. I started it. I tweeted out the damn thing.
One of our colleagues wrote a whole article about me, and I was like, okay, we'll see. I can't wait. I already know what tweet I'm gonna send.
There you go. That is, and you deserve to do so. At any rate, Patriots 10-2 through 12 weeks, and looking to keep it rolling this coming Monday night. So we'll have you here covered every single day on Patriots Press Pass. So make sure you rate, review, and subscribe here to the CLNS Media Network. And until next time, Taylor, good stuff. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Members early, Drake Maye breakdown. We'll drop it here later on the channel. So don't go anywhere. But until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we will see you next time. Peace out, everyone.